When Stephen King said that there was a movie that he couldn't finish, people thought he was just being funny. The king of horror was too terrified to finish a movie. The man who created movies like Carrie, The Shining, Misery, Children of the Corn, and It, that one alone was the reason why half of us couldn't sleep when we were kids. That man got scared with a movie. So of course the question was, which movie are we talking about? And that is The Blair Witch Project. Back in 1999, a new project took the film industry by surprise. An independent film made with a very little budget was being promoted everywhere. Movies in the 90s were promoted a little differently, and people were getting the heads up by mail, newspaper, and the cover of Time magazine. And of course, movies were not something new, so why there was a lot of commotion for this one to the point that to this day we have to talk about it. To explain this, we have to go back to why and how this movie was created. Just like any other independent film, it started as an idea by people with little to no connections and money to make a movie. Eduardo Sanchez and Daniel Myrick were two film students at the University of Central Florida who loved the horror genre but thought that at the moment horror movies were getting a little repetitive and boring. They also realized one thing: horror documentaries scared them more than the movies. Then they imagined a new type of horror movie, taking inspiration from documentaries, a new concept that was not done by anyone before. This idea was to get cheap cameras, no camera crew, no special lighting, no computer or CGI scenes, nothing special, no costumes, and not even famous actors. For any Hollywood executive, this sounded like a horrible idea, but these two students truly believed that the found footage idea was going to work. Sanchez and Myrick asked their families and friends for money for this movie. They also got some small investors, and in total, they were able to raise $30,000. Now that they had the money, they needed some actors, so they ran a small ad in a New York theater newspaper for actors with improv skills. They wanted actors who were not celebrities and had no experience filming movies. Their goal was to have actors that nobody could spot in other movies. The audition was looking for authenticity. They wanted actors that could become the characters, getting into them without any issue. Otherwise, they were not going to fit. They wrote a 35-page screenplay, but they had no script for this movie. There was no planned dialogue. They wanted this to be all improvised. And the film took place in Seneca Creek State Park in Montgomery County, Maryland, near a historic town called Burkettville. The actors had some backstories to make the audience believe that all of this was real. They had 2 video cameras, a camcorder, and a Cinema Products film camera, and they were ready to start filming. They spent 8 days in the woods. By the time they left, they had around 20 hours of unedited filming. So how did a movie with no script and what looked like poor planning become a huge success? Well, the directing methods of Myrick and Sanchez were different. They had no interaction with the cast during the 8 days of filming, and every actor had notes with different instructions for each day. Every day was different for interactions and reactions. That's why in the movie there is a lot of questioning and arguments about what they need to do and how to act. Most of the confusion was real. Other notes included clues for the next location, and all the communication was happening through notes. The actors would leave the footage that they filmed during the day in a location. They would leave notes for the director so they could find everything, and that was done for the entire time of filming. This created a different dynamic with the actors because there were no hard feelings, but since every actor had different instructions from the director, anything was a surprise for them, like the constant feeling of what is happening and what are you going to do. The directors knew that this was going to give every scene a different turn without falling into repetition and most importantly scaring people. However, uncertainty was not the only problem that the actors were experiencing. The directors wanted to give the actors the sense that they were going through some issues, so they decided to leave them with less and less food. They also decided to mess up with the actors while they were sleeping. They were making loud noises outside of their tents. Sanchez described this as safely torturing the actors. The thing about this is that the actors were completely fine with this. They knew what they signed up for. They did not complain. Nobody left or got mad. The directors talked about the fact that they never showed any monster. There is no physical creature in the movie, which leaves everything to the public's imagination. It is scarier when you don't know what are you hiding from or where it is. This resulted in people getting scared of their own thoughts. These decisions resulted in what can be considered today one of the best movies. This documentary-style movie with what seems to be found footage legitimately scared actors that were not sleeping very well, running low on food, and that were being haunted by something that was not visible, gave this low-budget film a lot of praise. It felt real, the authenticity was there, because you see the actors filming everything. There is no CGI creature, nothing that you can spot. It is pure fear. Yes, there was some editing done to the footage, but it was to cut what was not going to be used and to fix the quality of the footage. Nothing major, just some touches that provided a better exposure. Once the film was done, it was picked by Artisan Entertainment for $1.1 million after a successful screening at Sundance. Talks about changing things were done. The movie already had 4 alternate endings, but the directors went with the one that they originally chose. But how do you tell people to go and watch a documentary-style movie that could be considered a masterpiece when they don't really know what's behind it? Myrick and Sanchez created an iconic movie, and now Artisan Entertainment was involved. This definitely helped the 2 directors to create the most amazing movie marketing that was ever done. How the Blair Witch Project created what can be considered the first viral marketing campaign. They created a movie that was going to give the feeling of authenticity to the public. They wanted people to believe that this truly happened, so they went ahead and reported the trio of actors missing. They had people looking for the so-called missing filmmakers. A search group of over 100 people and local officials were searching the areas, and it was all over the news. There were missing person posters all over campus, news reports, and there was a website dedicated to the movie. The website included news interviews where people would talk about the missing people, their experiences in the area, and fake police reports. This website allowed people to practically do their own research. It was the 90s, so the internet was very different back then, but without a doubt, this attracted thousands, if not millions of people. Since this was about missing filmmakers, the directors also went ahead and updated their IMDb as missing, presumed dead. Pamphlets were distributed asking people for clues and giving people numbers to contact in case someone had some information about their whereabouts. But while all of this was happening, the actors were doing fine, hiding in their homes. The actors were encouraged by people to not take any other role, interview, or leave their house before the movie premiere, and they did that. This worked perfectly. And to add a little bit more drama to the missing filmmakers' case, the directors created a fake documentary called The Curse of the Blair Witch. The documentary was aired on the Sci-Fi Channel and was presented as real. This was everywhere. Even better, the film premiered at 40 colleges before even going to theaters. College students were going home during the summer to talk about this to everyone. If this is not genius, I don't know what it is. Ultimately, the movie premiered in only 27 movie theaters across the United States, but it brought $1.5 million in just one weekend. People traveled hours and camped outside of the theaters, which created nothing but more viral marketing. And 2 weeks after that initial release, the movie was available in more than 1,000 theaters. Box office went from $1.5 million to $30 million in sales. In the end, a low-budget film that cost around $35,000 to make ended up having a box office of $250 million, becoming one of the highest-grossing independent films of all time, bringing to Hollywood a new concept of movie that was tried a couple of times after that, and we could see it with the Paranormal Activity franchise. One movie that recreated this in another genre became a viral sensation among young people, and that will be my next video.